What's up, fam? You just got Lightroom. You open it up, you're kind of intimidated. Don't worry, we're gonna go over 5 things that's gonna make it a much better experience for you.
Three, two.
First thing to do, how to import your photos into Lightroom. There really isn't a right way to do it, but this is how I like to do it. Basically what you're doing is you're just importing your photos from your SD card over to an external hard drive.
We use LaCie.
We use LaCie. It literally looks like Lacy, but apparently it's called LaCie.
LaCie. And it's their rugged line. So
yeah,
you're throwing this in your bag, you're going out, you're taking pictures, you're not really in the studio all the time. Having this nice little bumper is good. They're not super expensive. I mean, this is the smaller one. It was, what, $90?
Yeah, that was like,
there.
That's a 1 terabyte, and that was like $80 or so. There's different ones you can get. Mine is a 4 terabyte. That was around like $150. And then there's also SSDs, which are a little bit faster, but those are a little bit more expensive.
Right.
Just kind of go with your budget. You know, just see what works with your budget.
They all do the same thing.
Yeah.
But why again do you like to go from camera to this instead of straight from your camera into your computer?
So the reason I do it that way is because when you're putting files onto your computer, and it's just not just photos, it could be documents and whatever, the more you're putting onto your actual like computer's hard drive, the more it's gonna bog down like over time, and the slower your computer is gonna be. So I just prefer to kind of just put all my files onto an external hard drive and then just work from the actual external hard drive. That way I have all this free space on my actual computer.
So tip 1, use an external hard drive. Put your photos on the hard drive and have Lightroom run off of that, not running off of your computer.
Yeah.
Save time, save space. Tip number 2, when you first open Lightroom, the windows, the tabs, the tiles, what do you call them?
I call them windows.
The windows can be all over the place. You're gonna find your own workflow that works best for you the more you use Lightroom. But what we suggest, the second thing that you do after you've put your photos on your hard drive and got them into Lightroom, is to rearrange the windows so that they work best for you. So we're gonna come to my screen here and I'm gonna show you what I like to do. So right now, for me, this is a mess. And if you use your mouse and you scroll around, you'll find where the mouse ends on these little spreader indicators.
Yeah.
Right, so you can control the size of each window. So for me, here's my original image. This is one that I was just working on before, but you can control these windows to a size that makes sense for you. So I like seeing the image that I'm editing as the largest. I want that to take up most of the screen. Down here, if you had more photos in your file, you would see them all spread out here, but we're only dealing with the one. So let me find that bar, pull that down, because I know which photo I'm editing, so I don't need that. But I love seeing the photo that I'm working on right here in the middle. We have the histogram here, so you can look at the brights and the shadows, and you can see how well your photo is exposed. But again, this is the way I like to do it. Get in there, mess around with the windows. As you start editing more photos, you'll start to see which works or what windows work best for you and where. Lightroom is very customizable. Just make sure that you do it what's right for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I could have said it better.
Do you want to do another take?
We'll just edit it and it'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be great. Fix it in post.
Number 3.
Tip number 3, knowing keyboard shortcuts. You don't have to know every single one of them. These are just the ones that I think are the most important. So the first keyboard command is Command Z. And that's basically what I like to call the oops keyboard command. Let's say you wanted to adjust, like for this example, the blacks on this image that I have right here. But then you're like, I kind of like it exactly where I had it before. All you gotta do is hit Command Z, and then boom, you're right back where you are. The other keyboard command that I really like is just simply hitting Y. Doing that is going to show you what your photo looks like straight out of camera versus to whatever edit that you have. So let's say if you're trying to make a certain color more natural to what you have in camera, you can actually go back and forth by simply just hitting Y, and then you can actually match that color to the original photo. So the next keyboard command I always recommend is just simply hitting F. Doing that is gonna blow up your photo into a full screen, and you're also gonna have a black background. That way you kind of get a better idea of what your edit looks like. That way, if you need to adjust something, it could look like something else in your preview section,
Right.
but once you actually blow it up and put it behind a black background, it could look entirely different. Also, here's a bonus shortcut, not necessarily on the keyboard. Let's say you want to bring something back to 0, either in the HSLs or like your basic adjustments. All you gotta do is double click it and it brings the highlights right back to 0. And it works with every single part of Lightroom in that particular window.
Right. So you don't have to go fishing. You might be like 0.03.
Yeah,
and
you
then
don't.
slide it over to
You
-5.
don't have to be like.
Yeah. And then if you're like, oh, 0 wasn't right,
Yeah.
Command Z gets you right back to where you were before. You can start again. So tip number 4, I wouldn't go as far as to say this is controversial. Everybody does it. But tip number 4, in our opinion, is to buy presets. Find a photographer that you like. I guarantee they're selling presets. And what that is they've spent the time to go through and edit photos in their particular style, and they'll sell, 5 or 6 or 10, however many presets they decide, and you can import them into Lightroom. And by simply scrolling through them, you have predetermined edits in the style of the photographer that you admire. So I don't think it's cheating. It's a good place to start from.
And something that I was told, like right around the time when I was starting, because when I started, I bought Peter McKinnon's presets.
Yeah.
And it wasn't to necessarily like copy his style. I just liked his style so much. I wanted to learn how he was doing that. And then once you apply one of those presets, you can actually see what exactly he did to make that preset in order to make a photo look like his style.
Right.
And plus, not all the photos that you have are gonna look good with presets. Like, you're going to have to adjust certain things.
Right. So the key with presets, and that's a great point, right? Not only can you see how your favorite photographer edited that photo, but you also learn what those sliders will do. So you will see what the contrast does and what exposure does. So you can kind of tell, okay, I have this really cool image, preset Y, whatever the name of that preset is, will look really good at this. But don't just slap it on there and call it a day. This is about being creative and developing your own style. So go over to that basic section in Lightroom that has your exposure and all the contrast and all the beginning changes that you can make, the beginning edits to a photo, and move stuff around. It's all subjective. This looks good to you. There's no like formula for this. And then go from there. You'll start to develop your own style. We both use presets all the time, but they're a starting point. I don't think there's ever been a photo that I've taken where it's just preset and done, because most of the time they come on pretty harsh. You have to dial them back a little bit. Yeah.
Another thing that I'm going to bring up is that no one's going to look at a photo and be like, oh, that was definitely, someone definitely used a preset right there. Like, no one ever does that. I mean, maybe you do.
If you do, stop. Stop it.
Just stop. You're being mean. Tip number 5, understanding your mask. No, not the one that you have to wear going into the grocery store. I'm talking about the mask that is right here. See your mask kind of like a paintbrush, because if you go to the effect tab right here, you have like exposure, contrast, highlights. We're not going to go into too much detail because that's a whole separate video on its own. But basically, let's say you wanted to brighten up your subject's face in a photo. Like, for example, I'm going to brighten up this person's face a little bit, just so it adds a little bit more emphasis. And then you can adjust the exposure, make it a little bit brighter, or you can make it a little bit darker. And then you can also use it to brighten up somebody's eyes, especially if you're doing portraits. And then of course there's the radio filter, where you can basically mask it as so. you can either make your surrounding subject lighter and then the surrounding area darker, or you can invert that. And basically what that does, it can create emphasis on your subjects.
Right.
And then you have your gradient filter, which again, we're not going to go into too much detail because there's actually a lot you can do with it.
Right.
I mainly use it to either make one certain section of the photo brighter or darker. So as you can see right here, I already have one on this portrait, just so I can make the sky a little bit brighter, because if I have it set to 0, it's gonna make those clouds really dark, and it's gonna have like a kind of like, I guess, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like
Game of Thrones kind of
cool picture, but it totally changes the vibe of the film.
Yeah, and like it was a moody day that day, but it wasn't Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, so basically, I just used the gradient filter just to brighten that up, and it just makes the photo look. It just gives it a different vibe at the end of the day.
Right. So without overexposing the entire photo,
Exactly.
you can use the gradient filter to just hit one section.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff we've gone over, we understand is very basic. Remember, the point of this video is for somebody who just downloaded Lightroom, is just opening it up for the first time, and it's completely foreign and they have no idea what they're looking at. So the first 5 tips were really just beginner centric.
And even though Lightroom, I think, is one of the easiest softwares that Adobe has, when you first open it up, it's kind of intimidating.
It's very intimidating.
You open it up and I'm like, what
Mm-hmm.
in the hell am I supposed to do with this?
Wait till we start talking about Premiere Pro. I opened that up once and then just closed it and went back to iMovie for 6 months because I had no idea what I was looking at.
That's why you called me.
Now it's why I called you. And now it's funny, like iMovie is, I can't use iMovie anymore.
Right.
I'm not going to get into that though. You stuck around. Thank you. Bonus tips.
Bonus tips.
There should be like a bonus.
Oh, like the like the old Batman? Like what we talked about. First bonus tip. Rate your photos. Basically what that means is if you're a guy like me, you're taking a bunch of photos, either at a concert, portrait, wedding, you're going through a lot of photos, and then you have to go through a lot of bad photos to find the good ones. And when it comes time to exporting it, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna individually like export all those photos?
That would take forever.
No.
What do you do, David?
Oh, let me tell you. If you, let's say you like this photo right here, just.
It's okay.
Oh man, can we have? So let's say you have all these photos. Are you gonna individually export them one at a time? No.
I'm not gonna.
No. It just, who wants to do that? I don't.
Not this guy.
All you gotta do is hit right click, set rating, hit 5, because I just think my photos are 5 stars always.
Oh, that comment section is gonna blow up.
Man, you just get to tear me apart. Anyway, I always set a 5-star rating at all my photos, and then you see this little star section right here. Just click the number 5, and then boom, and then you could just highlight all your photos, hit export, you're done.
Yeah, so it's not worth giving them ratings of 1 through 5.
Right,
It's
right.
either like, I'm not going to use this, or 5, I'm going to use it. And
Exactly.
and then you can go back and edit all the 5-star ones.
Exactly.
You're not being like pompous and saying my photos are all 5 stars. It's just an easy, quick.
Well, I'm kind of saying that, but just...
I was trying to give you an out.
the comment section is already going to rip me apart.
Good. Even bad comments help the algorithm. Rate your photos, then search for 5 stars. And now you know which ones you're going to edit. Out of the 1,000 pictures you took, you might have 100 good ones.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. I think we're all guilty of this. Bonus tip number 2. You're editing a bunch of photos. You've gone through, you've marked the ones that you want to. You're down to 100 and you're ready to go. Diving deep into your edit session.
Who's calling me right now? Hi.
Don't they know we're filming a YouTube video? So tip number 2 has to do with when you're actually editing photos and taking a step back from your edit and maybe letting it breathe for a minute and then coming back and reassessing your work with a fresh mindset. So what I like to do, edit the photos, give them a rough draft, let's call it pass number 1, go grab a snack, come back, take a look at it maybe 5-10 minutes later. Sometimes you're like, oh, this is pretty good. Sometimes you're like, 5 minutes ago, Mark was stupid. And then you double click on all those settings. That's a pretty good callback because that brings everything to 0 and you can start again. And then unless you're on a deadline, like for that night, give it a day maybe. Go for a run.
Yeah.
Have dinner. Take maybe a little longer time. Come back, look at your photos again. And it sort of resets, in my opinion, it resets your eyes, it resets your mind. It lets you start thinking about maybe the lights changed in your room. And now maybe you're seeing the pictures differently, which is, what do you hit? F, right? Gets you full back. So using all those tips, but maybe taking a break and then coming back to your edits. Bonus tip number 2. Thank you so much for watching, guys. For David, my name is Mark. We are Be Creative, Think Creative. Please subscribe. Click the like button. Blow up that comment section with some of the stuff that you disagree with what we're saying. We're going to go into more depth on some of these topics later, but this video, the 5 things you should do when you first open up Lightroom for the very first time. We hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
3, 2.